This episode is sponsored by the YouTube channel Geekified. Hello and welcome to Film Pro Productivity and Success, the podcast that helps film professionals and other creative people to live a more focused, effective and happy life. My name is Carter Ferguson and this is episode 78, Harnessing the Labour Illusion. Sometimes people don't want to hear the truth because they don't want their illusions destroyed. Friedrich Nietzsche, unquote. A couple of years back, I formed two limited companies. One was Firefly Films Limited and the other was a cleaning company. As I mentioned in episode 69, I've always fancied starting a business that is not in the business, but I'll come back to that in more detail in a future episode. I wanted to effectively park these two companies. The film company, I wanted it to be there when I needed it because I was developing several features. And the cleaning company, I wanted to park it until I had time to get it going. I set them up and in the UK I listed them as dormant, which costs only a few pounds a year until I needed them. Little did I know at that time, but I was about to go into two of the busiest fight directing years that I've ever had. I set both of these companies up with the help of an accountant as I was advised to do it that way. The trouble was that they were charging me quite a lot of money. They had said to me initially it was only going to be £12 a year, but in the first year they actually billed me for £300, and that was to submit dormant accounts for both companies, which caused me some consternation, I have to admit, but I paid because I was run off my feet. Then the next year they asked me to pay £140, which I was happy to pay. The next thing though that happened is in the same year they asked for a further £300 and I had to stop and say, hold on a minute. I realise that you guys here have the skills and I'm paying for your time, but when I set this up you told me that it was going to be £12 a year. Why am I getting all of these fees? Then, and only then, did they explain that the £140 was to file what they call a confirmation statement for both companies. That just confirms that nothing has changed. And that only came in year two. And the further £300 in year two was to file the dormant accounts again. What I did at that point is I fired the accountants and I did it all myself because I felt that I'd been lied to when I set it up, or certainly misled. In the end, doing it myself, the accounts cost me £13 and took about 20 minutes to figure out the form and file as zero money. But remember, these guys weren't handing in detailed accounts. They were handing in an account of zero. I also closed the cleaning company at that time as I was annoyed by all this, to be honest, and I was simply too busy to do anything with it, and that's the way things were looking for the future. So why was I charged £440 by this company when the HMRC costs in total for both companies were only £52 to submit and took way less than an hour for me to complete? It's because I was busy and uncomfortable, really, with the work. So I didn't look too closely at first, and because the work was kind of mystified by the qualified accountants in many ways, I didn't pay too much attention to it. I was just aware that it was costing a lot of money. I did feel, though, that I was effectively tricked by the accountant to pay the £388 for a task that could easily have been done by myself in less than half an hour. Let me assure you that my lesson was learned on that one. And part of what I'm talking about there, you will probably see relates to that episode I did a few weeks ago, which was getting comfortable being uncomfortable. If I'd been more comfortable with the dealing with the figures and the filling out of these forms, I probably wouldn't have paid even the first £300 of the year and for the accounts that year. Incidentally, the confirmation statement which I filed myself this year took 1 minute, literally 1 minute to fill in. You just go on and say yes, all the details are the same as they were last year. I was getting asked to pay £70 per company to file a confirmation statement, which I swear to God wouldn't have taken them more than 2 minutes. But all of this heightened my awareness of how much I'm paying and of what I'm comfortable dealing with. And over the years, I have got more comfortable with things like contracts, and certainly these days I'm getting more comfortable with money and figures. I came across the phrase the labour illusion whilst researching an earlier show, and I noted it for future reference as I found it to be a bit of an eye-opener. It won't take too long to cover, but it is a business concept that I really want to highlight to all of you freelance creatives out there. The spinning wheels, rotating egg timers, and moving progress bars we regularly see on our screens when using our electronic devices are often misleading. Rather than offering an accurate representation of the work being done, they are more often than not simply there to give the impression that something is happening behind the scenes. They provide us with a sense that we are not waiting in vain for something to happen. William Park, unquote. In a terrific article in The Guardian's Health and Wellbeing section, Oliver Burkeman retells a story presented by psychologist Dan Ariely, might be, about an eye-opening encounter with a locksmith. Business was bad, the locksmith confided. When he was starting out, picking locks took him forever, and sometimes he'd have to smash them open. But customers appreciated his efforts and gave generous tips. Now, as a veteran, lock-picking took him mere moments, and his clients, seeing how easy he found it, had stopped tipping. Worse, they even resented paying his fees for what seemed like so little elbow grease. Perhaps the locksmith should have heeded the time-worn tale of the industrialist whose production line inexplicably breaks down, costing him hundreds of thousands per day. He finally tracks down an expert who takes out a screwdriver, turns one screw, and then, as the factory cranks back to life, presents a bill for $10,000. Affronted, the factory owner demands an itemised version. The expert is happy to oblige. For turning the screw, $1. For knowing which screw to turn, $9,999. These are the two sides of the labour illusion. The psychology works like this. We value things more when we believe effort has been put into them, particularly if that effort is on our behalf. Hard work put in just for us triggers feelings of reciprocity that leads us to perceive the service is more valuable, and our appreciation and our satisfaction rises. Also, showing the work in progress reduces uncertainty and promotes perceived quality. Interestingly, this labour illusion only works when we're given specifics about the work being done for us. That's why I didn't like to discover that I was being drip-fed information about the costs and complexity of the task when I was dealing with the accountant. And by the way, I did expect to pay the accountant. I'm not sure I made it clear earlier. I did expect to pay the accountant on top of the £12 for their effort. I just didn't expect to be paying £388 for work that probably took them 30 minutes. That was what really was a problem for me. I had to investigate that myself, though, and as a result, I dropped them simply because I discovered that I had been kind of duped. Research on this topic by the Harvard Business Review suggests that people also find waiting more tolerable when they can see the work being done on their behalf, and they tend to value the service more. And this holds true even when what's shown is merely the appearance of effort. And I refer you to that quote from earlier on about our electronic devices where we see these progress bars. That app could possibly give you the information you needed in 1 second, but some people wouldn't trust it. I mean, if you went into a really expensive restaurant and bought I don't know, lobster thermidor or whatever, and it came out 10 seconds later, you might be a little bit suspicious about why you'd paid so much for something that they just had sitting there. You might, And it's the same psychology when coming to these apps. You put in a question, you ask it to search something. If it gives you it too quick, you might think Is this the answer I'm looking for, or is there more to it? So these progress bars are added really just to make us feel better. But anyway, I'm way off track here. Let me get back to my notes. A demonstration of effort, whether literal or not, expended to meet a customer's or a client's request can be so effective that many who endure waits but see a running tally of tasks end up happier than those who don't have to wait at all. This waiting element of the labour illusion is also known as the kayak effect, named after a popular travel price comparison app. It's been proved that satisfaction and perceptions of value actually increase with the wait time, particularly if you end up delivering a quality package. I'm thinking that this will be useful information for creatives out there who have to work with clients or to provide a service of some sort. And there's a few takeaways from what I've been talking about today. It's a slightly abstract concept, but I've got a few takeaways here. Number one, people will be happier to engage you if they know exactly what they are getting, but less likely to do so if they do not. Transparency in what you do will help you to gain trust and goodwill with your endeavours. Number two, if a client wants you to do things quickly and they know what is actually involved, they will more happily pay more money for a speedier delivery or a quality product. Number three, that people will be happy to wait for a better quality of service or a higher quality end result. And finally, number four, that if you are a highly skilled and efficient professional or can quickly deliver a high-quality service or product, your customers may be more willing to pay your rate and be happier with what you have delivered if you take your time delivering it. And I know that last example I gave there smacks of manipulation, and it's because it's true. And that's why I want to open your mind to these concepts. This is employed, as I say, in technology that we use every day with progress bars, but Starbucks also uses the labour illusion in how they prepare their coffees. They make separate hot milk now for each customer so that the customer can see the work being put in when it might be more efficient for them to do it in batches. That way the customer is happier to pay the elevated price. It happens too in some automated call centres. In one example that I read, the Apple telephone support dubbed in the sound of a human typing while it was processing the customer's answers to automated questions, perhaps offering reassurance that their responses were being logged and analysed, which is a form of audio labour illusion. And another example of a business that uses one of these techniques would be restaurants where customers can see the chefs working in the kitchens. Diners rated the quality of food from restaurants like that as 22% higher than the same food when they couldn't see it being prepared. I find it really fascinating, and that's why I kind of had to do an episode on it. I don't know if this is the best episode in the world, but hopefully it's opened your mind to some of these things. And I know that many of you will find this topic slightly unsettling, but maybe, just maybe, you'll find the information here useful, and maybe it will even change your life or the way you conduct your business. At the very least, though, I hope that you found it interesting. Thanks for joining me again here today and investing in yourself. If you've enjoyed the show, I would be incredibly grateful if you would take the time to leave a review on whatever app that you use to listen to podcasts. It's the one thing that really bumps this show up in the rankings. And today's sponsor is Geekified, a YouTube discussion channel of all things geeky, from Marvel movies, new TV show reviews, and comic releases to discussing directors. It's all there, and they are always looking for new guests. I'm going to put a link to it in the show notes. It's run by a friend of mine, Chris. Please go check it out. It's awesome. In the next episode, I'll be talking about motivation, but not as I've done so before. I've done a few episodes on this. I am instead, this time, going to be talking about motivating teams. This was a topic suggested by Twitter friend at mstewart3462, and I was very, very grateful for it. I put out, just as I was coming towards the end of this season, I put out an appeal for ideas, and I had a few about motivation, and I hadn't done one on motivating teams. So you've got a two-parter coming up, and I think it's going to be really useful. Let me end now with the words of chartered psychologist specialising in consumer behaviour, well-being and technology, Paul Marsden, who said, "If you have to work to give your customers what they want, don't hide it, flaunt it." Now, take control of your own destiny, keep on shooting, and join me next time on Film Pro Productivity and Success. The music that you can hear right now is Adventures by Ehimitsu. You can view the show notes for this episode on the official website, filmproproductivity.com. You can follow my personal accounts on both Twitter and Instagram. They're both the same, at fight_director, or follow the show on Twitter at FilmProProdPod, or on Facebook at FilmProProductivity. Please continue to support the show, my friends, by subscribing, spreading the word, and leaving an awesome review.